As if getting our pants pulled down last week by Arsenal wasn't bad enough. With 4 days left in the transfer window, Daniel Levy is now setting us up to be outbid and embarrassed yet again, this time by our other most hated rivals, Chelsea. Meanwhile, in my eyes, things are starting to become clearer as to the likely last day's outcome of this transfer window as the big names that we've linked with all summer fall away, and we're left looking to sweep up players that have been on the market throughout and will now be available at cut price fees. I'll reveal who I believe will end up with in this episode of Daily Tottenham Transfer News. Guys, thank you so much for watching and listening wherever you are. Please do give this video a like on YouTube. Please do subscribe to the channel and press that notification bell. Getting closer to 20,000 subscribers. So if you're not already a subscriber and you like my content, please do press that subscribe button. And join me on BigUp for all of the live Tottenham games this season, where I'll be doing watch-alongs. The details are in the top of the description box in YouTube. Just come and join me there. Press that join the community button when you go to the BigUp link. All right, guys, let's get going, though, with the latest Tottenham transfer news. Like I said, only 4 days left of the transfer window. I think Alex Ferguson might call it squeaky bum time. Definitely squeaky bum time for Daniel Levy. I'm just going to go back to January briefly. I think we were all in a very similar position back in January. We knew we needed a centre-half. And it got towards the weekend. And I remember being out with my friend Buzz, I think on Saturday night, when suddenly out of nowhere, the Kevin Danso news came in. So I guess there is a possibility that there are some names under the radar that we don't know about that we could suddenly kind of scoop up over the weekend. But yeah, to say that Daniel Levy is leaving this one late and has got himself in a pickle would be one of the biggest understatements I think I've ever probably talked to you guys about. We've signed Mohamed Kudus, 55 million. We've signed Takai for 5 million. And that is it. Palhinha on loan comes in, and he's been a great decision. He looks good already. But in terms of money spent, £60 million. We've got £20 million out for Sonny. We've got probably around £15-20 million out for Basuma to Galatasaray. That's going to happen or be confirmed in the next day or two. That is a loan option with an obligation. And what I fear will happen, because if you remember, at the end of every transfer window, Daniel Levy pushes out his head of recruitment, so in this instance, Johan Lange, to do a video with the social team and explain what happened in the transfer window. And what I fear is going to happen is they're going to be absolute riots from the Tottenham fans when we barely get anyone else over the line this transfer window. And Levy pushes out Johan Lange, and he talks about how we didn't just get Palhinha and Kudus and Takai. He will say that we got Tell and Danso as well, because we had them in previously on loans, but they will say, oh, but actually they were deals that were done this summer. And the reason there'll be riots for that, and I would agree with those riots, is because you can't just be pushing your budget every window to the following window and saying then during that window, oh, they're the players we bought, because there should have been separate budget for the January window, and last summer's window. So yeah, that's what I fear will happen. But anyway, let's get on to the latest rumors. And like I said in the intro there, my fear is we are now being lined up by Chelsea to do all the negotiations for them with RB Leipzig's Javi Simons. Loads of big reputable reports yesterday from the likes of Matt Law, Fabrizio Romano, and Ben Jacobs that now Tottenham are zooming in, zeroing in, if you like, on Javi Simons, as they think maybe his deal with Chelsea is stalling. He undoubtedly wants to go to Chelsea, just like Eberechi Eze throughout the window undoubtedly wanted to go to Arsenal. In the end, the stories coming out from that Eberechi Eze deal are quite amazing, actually, that he ended up calling Mikel Arteta himself to ask him whether there was any chance whatsoever of that deal being done. And Arteta then went to the board, and Arsenal's board okayed it, even though it was a bit of a struggle in terms of their UEFA PSR rules. So at this point now, with all these reputable journos saying Javi Simons, Spurs are in for Javi Simons, and he would prefer Chelsea, but he would be happy to move to Spurs, it just feels like Groundhog Day. So let's go through them. Ben Jacobs said Spurs consider Javi Simons, with Leipzig hopeful of a bidding war. Simons is still waiting on Chelsea. And like I said, although he'd prefer a move to Chelsea, he is open to joining Spurs. Matt Law said Tottenham holding talks over a pre-deadline day bid to beat Chelsea for Javi Simons. The likelihood is that Spurs will only make an offer if they believe they can quickly close a deal and minimise the threat of Chelsea stealing Simons away. There is optimism he would be open to move to North London despite his apparent interest in joining Chelsea. Well, does this sound familiar, anybody? Does it? Chelsea just allowing Spurs to start doing some groundwork, as Chelsea, meanwhile, are doing groundwork to signing Garnacho on, I think, about a 35 million to 40 million pound deal for Manchester United. That's how desperate Manchester United are to get rid of the players in their bomb squad. By the way, I was thinking this morning when I woke up, no matter how bad things are for Spurs in the transfer market, at least we're not Manchester United under Ruben Amorim at the moment. I was saying it all summer to on my TikTok channel and to my Man United fan friends as they were all getting, they were all beginning to drink the Kool-Aid again because they bought 3 new strikers. And I'm like, forward line isn't the issue with Man United. The issue is that they don't have players who work off the ball. They don't have midfielders with legs. And it is all, again, coming home to roost. They, of course, got beaten late last night by Grimsby on penalties. Grimsby should have won it in normal time. They were 2-0 up, had a third goal completely wrongly ruled out by a terrible officiating decision, offside that wasn't offside. And Amorim is in the mud. To continue, Romano says about Javi Simons, Tottenham remain interested in the situation of Javi Simons, but won't send any official bid and won't advance while Chelsea are still there. Well, by leaking these reports to the reputable journalists, they are advancing. That's what they're doing. They're opening up the story. They're allowing Chelsea to see what's going on. It's looking like he could be available at about £60 million. Look, I think all of us like Javi Simons. He's a good player, talented Dutch international, scored a worldie for Holland against England in the Euro semi-final. But why are Leipzig getting rid of him? He only recently joined them on a full-time deal from PSG. So I'd be a little interested in wondering why they're so keen to get rid of him. Maybe they need money. Who knows? But just another one of those things. Thomas Frank came out this week and said, we don't want any players who don't want to wear this beautiful shirt. Now look, I get it. Everybody will have a first choice and maybe he'd be happy to play for Spurs. But if it's getting towards the last few days of the window, I say it again, I urge the recruitment team again, I urge Daniel Levy and Vinay and Johan Lange, do not waste your time on players who aren't that bothered. Thomas Frank has said he only wants players who will fit into the first team, who will improve the first team. So stick with that. And if it's a matter of, as much as I hate to say this, because I do think we need a couple of players, and it's, again, as ever, Spurs always needing a couple of more players, but don't bring in any dickheads just because, Daniel Levy wants to appease an upset fan base. Don't bring anyone in who Thomas Frank doesn't want. Don't do a Timo Werner again and bring in somebody on loan who we're left having discussions like, is this a really good deal or is it a bad deal? But I think we all knew in our heart of hearts that Werner was shot. Werner had lost his confidence before, whilst he was at Chelsea, whilst he was at Leipzig. And don't take on any players like Werner or Danjuma again. I honestly, I fear that by saying this out loud, and I'm recording this Thursday morning at like 8, that over the next few days, we will bring in a disappointing loan signing. And if we do, I will do a video complaining about it. And I will call it back to this moment because you can see it happening, can't you? Remember Fraser Campbell, Danjuma, Werner, and many, many more. Ryan Nelson. Louis Saha was okay, but he's those two signings are the picture boys of when Daniel Levy tries to bring someone in on the cheap rather than push the boat out. And this transfer window, this summer has been another example of it. Just Levy refusing to push the boat out while all others around us do different. Okay, the next big rumor coming out of the last day is that Ademola Lookman of Atalanta, formerly of Fulham, Everton and Charlton. But to be fair to him, since he went to Atalanta, he's done really well, scored a lot of goals in Serie A and won a Europa League. But he is now a serious Spurs target. Apparently, it cost around 50 million euros. Now, the thing I want to say about Ademola Lookman is I just fear with him that in the rough and tumble and the pace of the Premier League that he won't be as good as he has been in Serie A. In Serie A, you get a lot more time on the ball. He's undoubtedly a very talented, very skillful, very quick player. But when he was at Fulham, when he was at Everton, when he was younger, to be fair, he's 27 now, so he will have matured a bit. But he never really showed that he had what it took in the Premier League. And again, this would be one, especially at 50 million euros. It would be a big gamble, I think, for Spurs. And do I really feel strongly that Lookman has exactly the right attitude? I remember him doing a Panenka under pressure. Might have been for Charlton, might have been for one of the other clubs, I'm not sure. But and really messing that up, trying to look like being arrogant, basically. And I don't know, not for me. But let me know what you think in the comments about Lookman. But I'll talk a little bit more about him later in the episode. But that is a link that is getting stronger and stronger for Spurs. According to Miguel Delaney, Spurs are trying to sign 2 attackers from a short list of 5 names. And listen to this, guys. Morgan Rogers remains the ideal signing. Yeah, great. You know, Lamal is the ideal signing. We might as well be saying names like Lamal or bring Messi in or whatever, because we're not getting Morgan Rogers, because to get Morgan Rogers at this stage would cost £100 million, and Daniel Levy's not going to do it. I would very happily be proven wrong, and you can meme this up and embarrass me. But as Delaney says, that remains a difficult deal. Spurs also looking at West Ham's Lucas Paquetá, as I said in yesterday's video, not going to happen. Javi Simons, we're going to get outbid by Chelsea. And then he comes into Lookman and Monaco's Magnez at Kliush. So they are the names on the list, apparently. And that is as a result of yesterday, all the stories finally coming out that Man City have made a decision on Savinho. And Romano said City have informed Tottenham they won't change their mind on Savinho, refusing to sell even for over 70 million euros. This means any potential Rodrigo move to City won't happen. Listen, Fabrizio Romano has been peddling this Savinho talk for 2 weeks now. And I'm wondering whether he had some skin in the game, like with Savinho's agent or something, because the amount he's been peddling it for, like the lack of, genuine evidence to suggest that there was anything really in it from Manchester City side. I don't really understand why he's been peddling it so hard. Fabrizio Romano also talked a little bit more about that Paquetá deal, saying Tottenham had new contacts today with the agents of Lucas Paquetá, and he's an option being considered. He's open to leaving West Ham. Yeah, but West Ham aren't going to sell him, as I said, so it's completely bonkers. Okay. Kobbie Mainoo started that game for Man United against Grimsby last night and didn't look like he was, let's just say, he didn't really show the desire to prove Ruben Amorim wrong. And according to Mailsport, as many as 10 different clubs have expressed an interest in signing him. He would be open to joining a Champions League club. I think a lot of Spurs fans are getting overexcited at the possibility of Kobbie Mainoo joining Spurs, because there's a picture of him when he was a kid playing in a pony Hewlett-Packard Spurs away shirt. But if you look into the back of that picture, you'll see that also there are other young kids wearing that shirt there. And I think basically the team he was playing for was playing in that kit. So I don't think realistically Kobbie Mainoo is in any way a Spurs fan. I'd love to be proven wrong. I think he would be a good signing for Spurs if Thomas Frank got the sense from him that he wanted to get the most out of his career and play for him. And Frank could put an arm around him and really build a team around that kind of player. But it strikes me again that it's a deal that will probably go elsewhere. You could imagine him going to Chelsea. Those clubs love selling to each other. Chelsea, Arsenal, Man United, and none of them want to do deals with Spurs. So can I see Man United doing a deal with Tottenham for Kobbie Mainoo? No, I can't. One rumour that came a little bit out of the blue yesterday, but is one that makes a bit more sense, is that Tottenham are targeting Manchester City's Nathan Ake to replace Luka Vuskovic, because Luka Vuskovic has got the green light to travel to Germany today to go and complete his loan move to Hamburg. It's a no-buy option, straight loan deal, as Vuskovic seen as a key part of Tottenham's future project. I think Nathan Ake would be a good signing for Tottenham Hotspur. Champions League experience, can play centre-back or left-back, and doesn't have to be that progressive a left-back in Thomas Frank's system. And for some reason, Manchester City are kind of happy to let him go. He's been linked with a few clubs, I think Everton and a few of the other Premier League clubs. I think Ake is a move that could happen, Spurs. And then finally, before I just go into the final bit where I'm going to tell you who I think Spurs will get over the line this transfer window. Tottenham were drawn at home to Doncaster in the 3rd round of the Carabao Cup late last night. That is a match at home at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium against Doncaster to get us into the last 16 of the Carabao Cup. That's how quickly things can go in the Carabao Cup when you're not playing in that 2nd round, as Manchester United had to last night because they've got no European football. So 3rd round, then into the last 16, and then you beat whoever you play in that round, you're suddenly in the quarterfinals, and a trophy potentially could beckon again for Spurs. All right, guys, just before I go, do give this video a like, do press subscribe, and please help me get to 20,000 subscribers. But I'm just going to tell you now how I think this transfer window is going to end. as all of those big name players that we've been linked with, the likes of Savinho, the likes of Eze, obviously, which has gone, all of those big names, as they fall away, I think Tottenham will realistically probably get Ademola Lookman, Nathan Ake, possibly, if we're willing to push the boat out a little bit, Akliouche from Monaco as an exciting number 10, but more likely Kang-In Lee on loan from Paris Saint-Germain with an option. Like I said at the top, a similar thing happened with Danso in January, where we were being linked with kind of a lot of big names, and then in the end, we pulled out a name we'd barely heard of. And although we've heard of all those players, Lookman and Ake and Kang-In Lee, they're players who've basically been on the market all summer long. And now Daniel Levy is waiting until the end because all of the big names that he's been trying to get at a fee that he deemed to be acceptable, they have all fallen away. They are ones that we cannot get over the line. And then the likes of Lookman, Ake, and Kang-In Lee will be available. And they will look at all of their options. Realistically, some of them will have options from like West Ham and Everton, maybe Fulham. And they'll be like, oh, I can go and play Champions League football at Tottenham. Now, look, Lookman and Ake, Akliouche is a great young player, and Kang-In Lee, they're all good players, but are they needle movers? Are they players who will excite the fan base when we bring them in? I don't think so, but they might prove us wrong. That's what we've got to hope for if and when they do come in. But let me know how you feel in the comments. If that is what our window looks like towards the end, getting in the likes of Lookman and Ake and maybe Kang-In Lee from PSG. Would you be upset? Will you be disappointed? And will you help lead the protest at future Tottenham home games because of a disappointing transfer window? All right, guys, thanks so much. Do press like on this video. Do subscribe to the channel. Join me on BigUp. Like I said, it's the top of the description box. There's the link. Just paste that link into your browser and press join the community on the Spurred On podcast in BigUp, where I'll be doing watch-alongs for all the games this season, and of course starting with the Bournemouth game on Saturday afternoon. Enjoy your Thursday, guys. Come on, you Spurs.